Hello, I'm Tony Filippone, Amazon best-selling author of Financial Planning for the Not Yet Wealthy. I'm also the author of How to Have a Happy and Stress-Free Retirement. Hey, I'm going to talk to you today. I'd like to talk to you about not leaving your spouse destitute in retirement. Could you really leave your spouse destitute in retirement, even if you've planned well? You can. And we're going to talk about why that is and what's one simple thing we can do to completely avoid that problem, or at least aim to avoid that problem. So, what we're really talking about here is called legacy planning. And legacy planning can get misconstrued a lot. A lot of times we think legacy planning, we're thinking, oh, we have to take care of our children when we're gone. And I think my clients are about 50-50 on this. About half of them are very concerned about leaving something for the kids, and the other half say, hey, Tony, listen, I sent them to college. I helped them get a house. They're doing okay. They're fine. They're doing better than me. I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about us, me and my wife. I want to make sure that we're okay, especially if something happens to me. I want to make sure she's okay. That's legacy planning for most people. I think that's the most common, and I think that's the most important. Really, is that we're kind of doing our children a service if we can take care of each other as well, right? To not leave a burden and to stay independent. So when we're talking about this topic of legacy planning, why is it so important? Well, what happens is most couples go along fine when you've got two incomes coming in, you got two Social Security checks, life is going along good, and then one person passes, right? And what happens? Well, first of all, taxes go up. Why do I say that? Well, we have two standard deductions that lower our tax bill. And when one passes, now you're down to one standard deduction. You're currently filing jointly in most cases. And when one of you passes, now you have to file as a single filer. Well, both of those things actually increase your tax rate at a time when your income is about to decrease. Why do I say that? Because you were living on two Social Security checks, and now you're going to go from two Social Security checks down to one Social Security check. And this all happens, by the way, overnight, right? Somebody passes away, boom, you find yourself in a completely different financial situation overnight, literally. So it's a big problem, a big change. To add a little more fuel to the fire, because the problem actually gets a little worse, is if you were fortunate enough to have a pension, most of the time that pension is going to be either reduced or eliminated upon the passing of one of the spouses. So a lot of people just never think that far ahead, and they don't really plan for, well, what's going to happen when all these changes happen? Where is that going to leave my spouse? And again, it's an overnight issue. So there's lots of ways to plan for that. That's the good news. The good news is we can fix this, right? We could set aside assets for this problem. Two, we can look at optimizing our Social Security. If we optimize at least one of the two checks, remember, the surviving spouse gets to keep the larger of the two checks. So if there's one check that's a little bit bigger, or if we can wait a little longer to claim on one person, that gives the remaining spouse more income as well. So you're not just planning for your own future income, you're planning for your spouse's future income. So optimizing Social Security is another option. And the third option is you could buy life insurance. Life insurance, really, isn't that for young families who need to take care of their families? Because when you're young, it's cheap, and then it's a good deal. But for retirees, isn't that uh, counterintuitive and cost prohibitive? Well, not really. When you start to think about it, if you think about the risk that you're leaving, life insurance could be a great tool to do this. But what I wanted to talk to you about in this video specifically was not trying to sell you a new life insurance policy, but let's talk about the life insurance you already own, because this is a huge missed opportunity by most people, I find. A lot of people own life insurance already, but they don't treat it like an asset. We pay attention to our stocks, our bonds, our 401ks. We pay a little more attention to those, but our brokerage accounts. But our life insurance, it's like, we buy it, we stick it in a drawer, and we forget about it for 20 years, right? And we never look at it again. And that can be a big mistake. So think about this. when you bought that life insurance policy, they gave you an illustration. And on that illustration, it showed you what was going to happen with that policy over the next 20, 25, 30 years. Have things changed? If you bought that policy 10, 15, 20 years ago, have things changed in the last 20 years? Have interest rates gone completely different than they were 20 years ago? Is the stock market a different place to be than it was 20 years ago? Do you think cost of insurance has changed? Are people living longer? They are. People are living longer. So actually, new policies have less cost of insurance per thousand many times than the old policies that you bought many years ago. So lots and lots of things in the life insurance world, or things that affect life insurance, have changed, and yet we haven't reviewed it in years and years. So that's a problem. It's really a problem because there's opportunities that are being missed there every day. Now, did you know you could call your life insurance company and you can get a free in-force illustration? I'll repeat that because nobody knows what that word is. It's kind of a industry jargony term. It's called an in-force illustration. And basically, it's like that sales illustration that they showed you when they sold you the policy, but now you're getting one up to date with up-to-date information based on your current situation. So you just call the insurance company, you ask them for an in-force illustration on your policy, and they're going to say, well, what parameters do you want to use? And you're going to say, well, just run it like it's running today. Use the same premiums that I'm paying now. If you're not paying premiums, say I'd like to run it without paying premiums. Use the same interest rates that are available today. If it's a variable policy based on the stock market, pick what you think is a reasonable return to expect. 4, 5, 6% per year going forward, and illustrate it and say, if I achieve that, what would that look like? And they will show you, they'll send you an illustration. You don't have to talk to a life insurance salesperson. You can do this right through the customer service department for the policy that you own. And I would encourage you to definitely do that. I'm going to give you 2 quick examples here. I recently did this for some clients. I changed the names to protect the innocent. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Jeannie. We ran an in-force illustration on her universal life policy. Now, she had bought this policy 20 years ago. It was a $150,000 death benefit policy. And she's up to date on her premiums. She's been paying her premiums religiously for 20 years. And guess what we found out? Her policy is going to lapse at age 73. What does that mean? That means if she lives to 73, no more insurance. Even if she pays it all the way through, that's when it runs out of money. Why? Well, because she bought it when interest rates were high and now they're not. And that's catching up to her. And she was not aware of that. But the good news is we were able to fix it because we caught it. We wouldn't have caught it if we hadn't run the illustration. Another case recently was George. He had a whole life policy. Again, had been paying on it for years and years. And George was with a really good insurance company, by the way. George is 69 years old. You think, oh man, you can't do anything for a 69-year-old. He's past the point of helping him with his insurance, you would think. But he's a pretty healthy guy for 69. He had $66,000 of cash value in his life insurance policy. And we were able to increase the death benefit on George's policy by about $100,000. So, I mean, just by moving a few things around for George, he didn't have to come up with any new premium. We could get him $100,000 increased death benefit. All he had to do was apply for a new plan and take advantage of the new, less expensive insurance tables because people are living longer. And we were leveraging that money quite a bit more. So now he was going to be way ahead for his life insurance. Also, on George's policy, we were able to add long-term care benefits. On newer policies, another advantage of some of the newer plans is that you can add a long-term care benefit, which means you could use your death benefit before you die, while you're alive, if you should happen to go into a nursing home. Think about how that situation can play out to leave a devastation for the remaining spouse, right? Taxes go up, income goes down. Oh, and by the way, I used up all your savings taking care of me and my health. before I passed. And so now I'm leaving you with nothing. Wow. But life insurance can replenish all that money, or at least maybe we wouldn't have to tap into the IRA for health benefits because we were able to use the life insurance benefits while you were alive. So for George, we left him in a much better situation. So my point to you is this: get an in-force illustration on your policy if you haven't done so already. Where do you go from here? Um, when you get that illustration, make sure you review it with an advisor that you trust. If you're working with me, bring it in. I've got 27 years of experience helping people with their insurance needs. We can certainly review that with you for sure. So if you own life insurance, get that illustration and then give us a call and we'll help you with it. If you're new here, next step would be if you're on my website, there's a video there, a 10-minute video roughly, and it's about how to avoid going broke in retirement while leaving your nest egg secure. Watch that video. That would be your next step. And if you're not on my website, go there now, rockfordretirement.com. It's also should be in the link somewhere on this page. Go check out that video. It's another 10, 12 minutes, and it'll teach you another really interesting strategy about how to preserve your money going into retirement. Thanks for watching, and check out that video, and we'll talk to you soon.